UNESCO de la UOC i el grup de recerca d'informació, d'estudi interdisciplinari sobre les TIC, les tecnologies de la informació i la comunicació, hem començat a estudiar conjuntament una mica els efectes econòmics de l'e-learning, l'economia de l'e-learning. Especialment ens interessa molt per les nostres sinergies l'anàlisi dels efectes i els determinants de l'e-learning en el món de l'empresa.
Bona tarda. Unfortunately, I do not speak Catalan or Spanish, so I will need to speak in English. But thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to visit Barcelona. A little bit about my background. My background is in public policy, and in the mid-90s and early part of 2000s, was very interested in technology and education, and looked at the impact technology should have in education. And in every other industry where we use technology, prices go down. So the price of, pick your product, pick your market, prices go down. In education, prices go up. So despite the fact that we have incorporated more and more technology, prices are rising. So what was it about the education market that has continual price increases? What's going on? And that started my interest in online learning. It started my interest in StraighterLine and also smart thinking. So I've broken this talk down into 3 sections. The first section is the economic principles of digital distribution. And it will be a way for us to make sure we all have the same common economic principles as we talk about the rest of the talk. The second are the market characteristics of the United States higher education market, which is different than the European Union or the Spanish or Catalan market, but the principles are similar. So what is happening in the US, while maybe different by degree, is certainly starting to come to the European market as well. And then lastly, I'll talk about StraighterLine, the company I founded, why we founded it, how it works, and why it is disrupting the market in the United States, and also how other companies are now starting to do the same sorts of things. Lastly, before I go forward, if I am talking too quickly or I am saying things that folks don't understand, please feel free to interrupt, and I'll be happy to either slow down or explain in greater detail what I'm trying to say. So first, a refresher. Economic principles of digital distribution. One of the core principles of microeconomics, and bear with me as we go back to your early college years, but price equals marginal cost, P equals MC. And what this means, by example, if I build a cup, I develop a cup and it costs me €1, and nobody has built a cup quite like that, and everybody wants it, and I think I can sell it for €2. So that's terrific. I get all of my customers are selling or buying my cup, and I make €1 per cup sold. But Jean decides that as a professor of economics, he says, well, that's interesting. I could do the same cup and charge $1.50, and I will get all of his customers. So he does, and all my customers move over. And then Emma says, well, I've also studied a little economics, and I know that if I charge €1.25, then I will get all of Jean's customers. And eventually, with enough people who want to make those cups, the price goes down and down and down until the price equals what it costs to make the cup, €1. So with enough providers and enough customers, the price of a thing in a functioning market equals its cost of delivery. Well, the cost of delivery for digital content and communication is 0. So to make another electronic copy of a calculus curriculum is 0. The cost of email is effectively 0, the marginal cost. So this is why the internet industries have done what they've done, is that the cost of the next thing is effectively 0. So the cost of an online course in a well-functioning market should ultimately drive to just the price of labor that is involved in delivering that course. So that's some background. So in every other industry, the internet has driven out the middlemen who have made businesses of interpreting the market, of connecting producers to consumers. And online, colleges are such middlemen. And as an example, This is what has happened in other industries. So take travel agents. Not too long ago, if you wanted to take a trip to America or to Barcelona, you would call your agent and they would find the best ticket for you and tell you the price and then send you the ticket. That doesn't happen anymore. Now when you want to make a ticket, you go online and you book your ticket. The consumer is doing it instead of the agent. And what has happened is most of those agents have gone out of business. A few have stayed in business doing more complex tasks, but most have gone out of business. And instead, the consumer is doing it yourself, and the middleman, such as it is the platform. It is the technology. It is Expedia or Travelocity or any of the booking platforms that are running those transactions. The same thing has happened in insurance. It has happened in financial services. Instead of calling a broker, you make your trade directly. It's happened in industry after industry after industry. It has not happened yet in higher education. And the reason is that it is still very difficult to determine the price of that degree before you start. And so we are still looking to colleges as the middlemen to tell us the price, to help us compare, not much comparison, but to help us compare. So this has happened in industry after industry. It is yet to happen in higher education because of how it's regulated, because of how difficult it is to know the price, and because of how it's subsidized. So well-functioning markets, you've seen the internet transform them. Higher education is not a well-functioning market. So to move to the United States, you can start to see this really in great detail. And the US, I don't know if it's a better or worse functioning market than other countries, but it's certainly not a well-functioning market. More than they ever have before. I believe that's partly due to the match between skills and labor, but more likely due to the signal that having a degree gives to employers. So employers see someone with a degree, it lets them screen employees in a way they can't. But regardless, you have to have a degree if you're an aspiring worker. There is common first-year coursework at most colleges. So in the United States, just about every college has the same general education courses in the first year of college. So things like Economics 101 or Psychology 101. The curriculum is the same. The companies that provide the curriculum are the same. The assessments are the same. It is effectively a commodity portion of higher education. There's wide adoption of online coursework for credit, both from producers being colleges and students. Significant taxpayer subsidies, not just subsidizing colleges directly, but also subsidizing students to go to college. So students get grants, they also get subsidized loans. Even the for-profit colleges in the United States are receiving subsidized loans from students. So in essence, every college, every accredited college in the United States is subsidized. And lastly, many participants. There are 4,000 colleges, there are 23 million students. It's a very robust market on the consumer and at the supply side. Just as an example, the rate of tuition growth. Tuition has grown 4 times the rate of inflation over the past 30 years, 2 times the rate of healthcare. At the same time, median family asset value has dropped by 1/3. So rising cost, diminishing ability to pay, greater need for a degree. So you have to have a degree, but you can't pay for it. And the result is, in the US, $1.2 trillion in student debt. And that's an untenable situation for particularly middle-class Americans. And this is what a student sees when they are deciding whether to go and get a degree or not. Tuition has risen, the ability to pay has dropped, they have to have it. But now, whereas maybe 15 years ago, you had to go to a college, increasingly there are alternatives. So there are many colleges, or I go even a step back, you had to go to a college and you usually had to go to a college that was located near you. So if you're an adult learner who can't move very much, who doesn't have the ability to go to another state, you have to do something regionally. That gives the college a lot of power to decide what they will and won't take for credit and transfer. As more colleges move online, that student can now choose a face-to-face college or an online college, and now they have hundreds of options online and increasingly non-colleges online as well. So the number of choices that students have grown exponentially, and that changes the relationship between the college and the student. It used to be the college could define what the student had to take. Increasingly, the student can say, I will choose the college that adapts itself to me. And that's a different way of a different relationship than colleges and students have had before. So what it means is that students today are shoppers, and they have power buying power in a way they've never had before. So just to refresh, these are the characteristics of the online higher education market. 1/3 of all students transfer. So that means credit is fungible. These are students who successfully transfer from one college to another. It does not include students who transfer but don't complete their degree. It does not include students who may not transfer but still just bring in credits from other sources. So the number of credits being transferred among colleges is really large. 1/3 of all students, and this data is from 2013, so it's even greater now, took at least one online course for academic credit. So that means that credit for online is widespread. It's not a question of does online equal face-to-face or face-to-face equal online. It's credit, period. There's no distinction. 2/3 of colleges offered online courses, again from 2013. The number is greater now. So many colleges are offering online courses, many students. And then lastly, 93% of American colleges charge the same or more for online courses than for face-to-face. Now this is weird because online has none of the physical infrastructure, none of the costs of a college. So why is it that colleges are charging more for online courses rather than less? And the reason is that colleges' business models are built on the revenue from their tuition. And their tuition is a certain amount, and if they charged less for online courses with the same credit, they're worried their students will migrate from high revenue face-to-face courses to low revenue online courses. So their answer has been to charge the same or more. And they charge more because it's convenient. They've actually found students will pay more just for the convenience of online courses. Now, this is interesting, and this is about what has happened for the last 15 years. It explains the higher education market in the United States. It explains the growth of the for-profit colleges. The for-profit colleges were the first to realize that they could charge the same, but drive the cost of delivery way down by going online and generate large profits. Nonprofit colleges are now copying what many of the for-profits have done. So for the past 15 years, there has been double-digit growth in online enrollments at accredited colleges. However, today, that growth is flat. The growth has stopped. So it's flat at accredited colleges, but at non-colleges, places like StraighterLine, MOOCs, others, growth is exploding. So what you're seeing is that people started moving online for degrees because of convenience, but as alternatives are evolving outside of colleges, they're now basing their buying decisions on price. And that is a threatening development for colleges. This is a slide of what the American higher education market looks like. So the colleges that you have heard of, Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, Yale, Williams, maybe my alma mater, throw it in just to be for the college. But those are a very small portion of American colleges, less than 15%. If you took the top maybe 200 colleges that you know of, that'd be less than 15% of the American colleges. Most are what I call non-branded or unbranded colleges. They're probably 3,500 of them. There are many of them. You would not necessarily have heard of them, but they're everywhere. And about 80% of students go to college in one of those non-branded colleges. The first year courses are more or less the same there. There are about 40 courses that represent 1/3 of all course enrollments. So you don't need a lot of courses. You don't have to have a very broad course catalog to make a big change in higher education. These are the general education courses. They're also very profitable for colleges. So an American college might pay an adjunct professor $3,000 to teach a course. That's actually a little high on average. But let's say that professor teaches 30 students. That's $100 per student to teach a course. Maybe add in $25 or $50 per student in overhead. The college will get, when you add in tuition, fees, and public subsidies, between $1,000 and $1,500 for that $150 course. So these general education courses are big profit engines for colleges. They're way overpriced for consumers, but they subsidize everything else in the space. By our estimation, there's probably 20 million students in this unbranded higher education space, of which 1/3 is general education. Does not include high school students taking the general education courses or international students. By our estimation, it's about a $20 billion market for general education courses alone at StraighterLine's prices. So this is just to show kind of the profit margins that colleges enjoy from their online courses. So the time is from 1999 to 2015. 1999 is about when online education began to become popular in the United States and grow from there. So in 1999, this is the in-state per course cost for a 3-credit course, which is your standard course in the United States, for a 4-year public college. So in 1999 was $646. Today it's grown by almost 50%, it's $914. That does not include any subsidies that might have flowed to the college. I don't have the exact number because that varies from state to state, but it's always there. And over time, the cost of delivery for online courses have fallen. So it used to be in 1999, Blackboard was the only learning management system around, and it was very expensive. But since then, there have become more learning management systems. The price of technology, the price of memory, the price of content has dropped towards zero, in many cases has hit zero for open educational resources and others. So what you're seeing is that in American higher education, the price has gone up and the cost of delivery has dropped. And so the amount of profit that colleges are deriving from online courses, no matter the college, public, private, for-profit, nonprofit, it doesn't matter. They're all profiting from online courses. And so this is what I saw as an entrepreneur and said, that's wrong. In a better functioning market, new providers would come in, they'd price their courses much closer to the cost of delivery, the market would adapt, and then the consumers would be the beneficiaries of that technological improvement. So that hasn't happened, and so the question is why? Why haven't new providers been able to come in this industry when they have in every other industry? Why have they not been able to come in? And so that gets to accreditation. So in the United States, this is by my back-of-the-envelope calculations, about $190 billion per year flowed to accredited colleges and public subsidies. And these are from multiple sources. There are direct subsidies to the student. So the student gets Pell Grants, which is just a grant to go to college. They can use it as they want to. They get indirect from subsidized loans. So students often can't get a loan unless the government backs it. And then the government will often subsidize the interest on that loan as well. Colleges get paid directly by their states. So any given state has a public college system. They put money into it directly. That's about $73 billion per year. And then colleges are also nonprofits, which means they don't get taxed. So colleges don't pay taxes, their endowments don't pay taxes. That's also a subsidy. This doesn't include special government programs, which can be quite lucrative, where the Department of Labor or the Department of Education might give grant programs for specific purposes. But close to $200 billion per year flow to colleges and can only flow to accredited colleges. Now, accreditation, to be accredited, you must offer an entire degree program. So StraighterLine, we just offer courses. I'll talk about that in a bit. We're not allowed to be accredited because we're not offering a degree. A degree must be 2 years or 4 years, must be 60 or 120 credits. That has to be the form to be accredited. And the accreditation measures inputs, so the number of your faculty, the degrees that they have. This doesn't happen anymore, but it used to be a requirement, the number of books in your library. Obviously not relevant for online delivery, but that used to be an accreditation requirement. So accreditation for the most part measures inputs. The people who do accrediting are colleges themselves. They staff and finance accrediting agencies. So if I'm running a college and I have an accrediting visit, it will be representatives from other accredited colleges reviewing my college, which means that if they want a good review, they are inclined to give me a good review because my faculty will someday review their college. Further, it's all financed by colleges, so the accreditors have a strong incentive to keep up good ties with their colleges. So it makes it very difficult for new providers to come in. So because of that, and then lastly, very important, colleges can accept or deny credit at their discretion. So if I have a calculus course and a college has a calculus course and they're exactly the same, my course costs $100, the other colleges cost $1,500, and they both want to be transferred to another college, that college can decide to accept the one that's non-threatening at $1,500, but not take mine at $150. It will never say it's because of economics. It will say because of quality or accreditation or rules, but it's because of economics. They don't want low-priced competitors to move into their space. So this is why higher education has resisted disruption for the past 15 years, and why you're starting to see that breakdown now. So because of that, colleges cannot be easily disaggregated, very hard for new providers to enter the market. Colleges must look pretty similar to each other, and the standards they set are enforced by each other. So very difficult, and then there's $200 billion that affects the market that's riding on that. So very difficult to create new competition. Now, despite all that, there's a quote from someone named Herb Stein. He was he was an advisor to 2 presidents. He had a quote that said, if something cannot go on forever, it will stop. So that is what is happening now in higher education. You cannot keep raising prices and lowering costs forever. Eventually, the market will break. You're starting to see that happen. So online, you don't need to be a college to offer a college course. The barriers to entry are really low. Anyone can build an online course. Some are good and some are bad, but anyone can build them. So in the United States, the ways to get credit outside of colleges, there are really 3 ways. One is courses. So StraighterLine is a great example. We've had our courses reviewed by third-party entities who aren't accreditors, but who will say these courses are the equivalent of college courses. So we can get validation that our courses are the same as a college. Prior learning, students may have learned something in a different capacity. Maybe someone does their family's books. Maybe someone has been learning logistics through their job. They can get credit for what they've learned, called prior learning, and it's a college-by-college decision, but that's one way to get credits prior to entering. And lastly are high-stakes tests, CLEP, AP, prove you know chemistry, prove you know economics, whatever it is. The chart on the right is the price differential by getting credits in this way. So you can see the college prices, even the lowest, which is heavily subsidized public two-year colleges, $359 per course. StraighterLine's averages out to about $150. So you can see how students are starting to pick courses outside of colleges to get credit to bring into colleges because it makes economic sense for them to do so. So this is where we go to StraighterLine. I founded it in 2008. It was a division of my first company. In 2010, we became our own company, and we were very controversial when we started. The idea that a for-profit, non-college could offer online courses for credit, 90% cheaper than colleges, was really heretical. In 2012, the MOOCs came aboard, and all of a sudden what we had been saying is now getting additional validation by MOOCs offering free courses. Now they have their other issues, but the idea was no longer so radical. And since then, those ideas, I think, are becoming much more common within higher education. So we have, real quick about StraighterLine, I'll talk more about it in a second, but we offer general education courses, just general education. We offer on a subscription basis, so $99 per month, and we have agreements with colleges so we can guarantee credit transfer from us to them. So while we can't be accredited, we have agreements with colleges. We had 3 big questions that we had to answer as a company. The first is, how can we be so cheap? If our courses are 1/10 the price of a college, what are we not doing? Is there a quality problem with our courses? And our answer there was, we're just pricing closer to the margins. You, college, charge 10 times more than you should. We're pricing closer to the margins. It took colleges a while to understand that. They're not very good at cost accounting on a per unit basis, but eventually they have, I think now, or they at least understand it, if not embrace it. Second was, why would a college work with us? Why can we create credit transfer agreements from us to a college if it undermines their pricing structure? I'll talk about that in a second. And then lastly, how do we acquire students? Colleges will spend $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 to acquire a student. And what that means is take the overall marketing budget of a college, whether that is paid search or display or mail or whatever it is, and divide it by their students, and that gets your acquisition cost. Colleges have a lot of money to spend on acquisition. We don't. Our model, we have a much lower price. We don't have nearly as much to spend. So how do we get known? How do we are able to attract students to us? So quickly about StraighterLine, we offer 60 well-supported general education courses, all the Econ 101s, Accounting 101s, Chemistry 101s, etc. We start with a free trial, and then students can then, if they like the courses, then pay $99 per month. As long as they pay their monthly membership fee, courses are very cheap. They pay about $49 or $59, typically about $49 to then buy the course. They're self-paced, tutor-supported, highly supported courses with non-academic help as well. And when students are ready, they can take their exams. They can cancel at any time, so it's very low risk for them to start as well. We'll enroll about 20,000 students this academic year, up from about pretty close to 0 5 years ago, so growing pretty rapidly. As I said, we cannot be accredited, but we collect third-party approvals so we can continue to say these are college equivalent courses. So there's a group, the American Council on Education, ACE. It's the largest group of colleges in the U.S., trade group of colleges. They have a group called ACE Credit. They've reviewed our courses and said, yes, these are college equivalent. Same with Advanced College Board, who runs the advanced placement tests, and others. So the second question, why would a college work with us? This is probably the single biggest question we had to answer. If we're so much cheaper than a college, why would they make it easy to transfer credits from us to them? That undermines their model. So most colleges don't want to. They really would prefer that we not do that. They do not want to create low-priced pathways into themselves. However, if they are spending money to acquire students, and we create free agreements between us and them, the students who come to us need a place to go. The place to go becomes the colleges that make it easy to transfer. So it becomes a free marketing channel for colleges. Moreover, the students who come from us are more likely to succeed and persist to a degree than those that don't. Partly because we have good courses, but also because they have proved themselves already with us before they get into their higher risk, higher financial risk model with the college. So very a free pathway for new students, free pathway for very valuable students. And then increasingly we're seeing colleges refer students to us. So colleges might have a student who inquires about the college but doesn't apply. Someone who applies but doesn't enroll, or enrolls but doesn't complete. The college has lost engagement with that student. We can be a recommendation from that college to that student to try and get them back to the college. So it provides additional value to the college, marketing value to the college as they are trying to acquire new students. Why would a student work with us? One, price. That's, I think, relatively straightforward. But also more to it, we're also low risk. And I think this might be the biggest value that's going to come from distance education in the next 5 or 10 years. In the United States, almost 50% of students do not graduate within 6 years of starting a 4-year degree. That's about the worst possible outcome. Significant debt, no degree, no benefit on earnings, and the result is defaulted loans, bad credit ratings, a terrible outcome. However, online, there's no reason to start college right away for a very expensive proposition. Why not take courses free or very cheaply, free trial, or a subscription where if you don't succeed after the first month, you're out $148 instead of several thousand. It's a very low-risk way to get started. I like the analogy of a health club. Many people have said, I think I'm ready to get fit. I'll sign up for a health club. 1 month later, you really weren't ready to get fit, and you're not really using it, and so you stop. And you wouldn't have signed up for the health club if you had to pay $1,500 the whole year's fee to start. But you might have started for a month, and then you stop, and it's no big deal. We're going to see college behave the same way. There will be low-risk ways to get started, which pre-qualify you such that your success rates are much, much more likely than what they would be now. That's great for students. That's very bad for colleges. That many colleges are built on failure. They again will not say it, but their budgets are built on non-success, and that's a bad outcome. Great for students, bad for colleges. And then lastly, it's not on the record. So if you take a course with us and you don't succeed, it's not in your transcript. But it's only in your transcript if you successfully pass it to a college. So low academic risk as well. I mentioned that the colleges work with us because we become a free marketing channel. That also creates network effects. So we believed as more colleges start to compete with each other for these very profitable students, more colleges will move online, then more colleges have to accept credit from providers like us, or be at a disadvantage in the competitive market. So once you get some colleges, you get more colleges. There are network effects that come with building out the college network, and that has happened. So in 2010, we had 4 colleges. Now we have 100 that are partners. We're getting to the point where we will stop having to be so aggressive about bringing in partners. Partners I think, are going to start coming to us. Will hopefully become the default platform for starting college and then continuing wherever you want to go. The specifics of how we work with colleges, it's a free articulation agreement. It's very straightforward. It simply creates a one-to-one pathway from our courses to their courses, so students know before enrolling what will transfer from us to them, as opposed to after enrolling, which is how it's done at many colleges. We also have what we call our scholarship program, where we have colleges that have agreed to offer additional tuition discounts to students that complete 4 of our courses or more. And the reason there is that because these are really good students, colleges are now competing with each other to attract our best students. So they want to give additional tuition discounts. And so we love that. That brings more students to us because they get greater advantages by going on to college. So we create special marketing packages for scholarship partners, special differentiation on our website about these particular schools. And this is just the process for scholarships. We have students identify 3 partners that complete 4 courses. We send that information to colleges, and now they can contact those students interested in the scholarship. As I mentioned, we're now seeing, I said there were 3 big questions we had to answer. The first is about why are we so cheap? It's just a different pricing model. The second was why would colleges work with us? Because we've become a marketing channel. And lastly, how do we get students? So the first part of that answer is that we've been around long enough and we were controversial enough such that there was a lot written about us, a lot of links to us. So if you type in online college algebra, we typically come in first in the search engines. So in the marketing speak, that is, we have terrific organic search results. So people find us. And then second, we also have lots of referrals, students telling each other, employers telling their employees. So that's another piece. And then most recently, we've realized colleges are referring students to us. So it started with a very well-known online college in the United States called Western Governors University. They started realizing that they require students to have taken at least 3 courses prior to enrollment. And anyone who didn't have that, they now say, go to StraighterLine and come back. And so we've realized that we should do our best to encourage that. And so now, instead of it just being passive, we create a co-branded, co-marketed cycle that works closely with them to try and get referred students to take a few courses and go back to Western Governors. And so we've realized that that actually applies to every point of the enrollment cycle and applies across many colleges. Now we're rolling that same program out with about 4 or 5 other colleges in the next 3 or 4 months or so. I mentioned that our success rates are better. This is a case study from one of our partner colleges. SAP stands for Satisfactory Academic Progress. It's really the minimum. It's not sort of everyone, it's not the average, it's the minimum that is required for students to be able to continue to access financial aid. On-time progress, 7-month retention, and 13-month retention. And then lastly, this is maybe a way to think about where the world is right now in terms of, or maybe where the world is and the market is in terms of providers of online courseware. So it used to be, really until, say, 2012, that accredited colleges were the only place to go to get educated, whether it was credit-bearing or non-credit-bearing. There were certificates, there were non-credit pathways, there were continuing education. Colleges did everything. In 2008, we started creating this niche on the credit side with pathways into colleges. 2012, the MOOCs started, and they dabbled a little bit in trying to create credit, but it was hard doing what we have done. They've decided it was too hard and have found other models. They may come back to it. They certainly could be a competitor of ours down the road. But now they are focusing mostly on short-term certificates, on employer credentials, and other things that they can get credentials for, particularly abroad. Others have since grown. Udemy is another MOOC that's anyone can build their own, put it on their platform. Pluralsight does technical courseware. Lynda.com got bought by LinkedIn, so that combination should be pretty scary to just about anyone who's offering certificates and content, and ultimately degrees. And so this unaccredited space has become very crowded. And in fact, I think many college continuing education and online programs are starting to suffer because of it. And in fact, I think that's why online enrollment at accredited colleges has flattened, is that students are now, some of those students who wanted to get a degree for job improvement are now just getting a certificate from a MOOC or somewhere else. It's not restricted to online. General Assembly is a company that offers coding boot camps, which means you go, and it's a bricks and mortar, it's a real place. You go there and take courses for about 5 months. You come out being able to be a software developer, and then they have jobs waiting because there's such a demand for software development. So the only thing holding these companies back is kind of this arbitrary distinction of accreditation, of credit versus non-credit, of subsidized versus unsubsidized. And that's starting to break. So in July, the U.S. Department of Education held a meeting about pathways that providers like StraighterLine and General Assembly and others can receive financial aid. That actually has been turned into what's called an experimental site that was announced last week. So I bet within the next 6 months, and it will have to be in partnership with a college, but providers like us are likely to have pathways to financial aid. Marco Rubio is a senator from Florida. He's a Republican presidential candidate. He and a Democrat have proposed a bill that would create an official accreditor to accredit providers like us to create financial aid pathways to us as well. CHIA stands for the Council for Higher Education Accreditors. It's the umbrella group for all the accreditors in the United States. They are building a process to validate new providers like us as well. ACE is the American Council on Education. They already have a process to recommend other people's courses. They have now, they have a grant program with the Gates Foundation to create a consortium of colleges and providers with guaranteed transfer pathways that was announced today. So we are one of the providers. There's about 40 colleges, and it's just more inertia, more mass to this growing network of colleges that are taking non-college pathways to credit. And then lastly, another group, a national accreditor called DEAC, has built a similar pathway. So you're seeing this line break down, and what it is good policy versus good politics. So good policy is that there's no reason why one provider's calculus course should get financial aid and subsidization while another provider shouldn't if they're the same course. But that is the state of things right now. And so that's bad policy. Taxpayer money is being wasted. Good politics, however, is that colleges have very strong political power. There are 4,000 colleges. I think the median, 95% of Congress people have 5 or more colleges in their districts. These are big labor engines, big economic engines. And so there's a lot of politics to keeping new providers out, keeping financial aid flowing to existing colleges. So these two forces have been in conflict for the past 15 years, really, but now they're starting to break, and ultimately policy is going to follow practice. So if consumers are choosing these new providers, which they are, policy is going to have to follow them eventually. What the time frame is uncertain, but they'll have to follow them. So I'm going to close by offering probably easy questions without easy answers. But unbundling, it's going on. Is a degree an accumulation of credits, or is it something greater? Colleges behave, by bringing in credit already, they're behaving as if it's an accumulation of credits. Though many would believe the ideal of college is that it is something greater, it is something more. There's a experience around it that's bigger than that. Taxpayer subsidies, who should receive them? Why colleges? Are colleges working in the public interest, or are they working in their own interest? Logically, most things, nonprofit, public, doesn't matter. They work in their own interest. Sometimes those two align, sometimes they don't. What level of granularity should be subsidized? Is the degree the right one? Is it 5 courses? Is it 1 course? Is it a module? What counts? What counts as a program? College effects. What is the impact of all of this on college budgets? And then lastly, social effects. What is the impact on research, local economies, labor, and students? These are profound issues. These technological changes are not without disruption. You see it over and over and over and over again. This is not new, but it's also not easy. So With that, I will stop and open up to questions, or more questions.